do have our own sovereignty and our own beliefs around our sovereignty.
Tonight, why the Haudenosaunee could be denied entry to the World Lacrosse Championships. With Greyhound set to cut bus service in Western Canada, the issue of access to transit services is once again a concern.
Just going to treat it like any other race, you know. I know it's the big show and it's the Calgary Stampede, but we can't get too excited with it.
And Siksika jockeys ride the Indian horse relay at the Calgary Stampede. Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward. A Northern First Nation family is searching for their missing son. Today, Manitoba, Haudenosaunee, Okimakanak, and the family held a press conference. They issued a heartfelt plea to the public to help bring home their son. Ashley Branson has the story.
26-year-old Russell Hislop was last seen on June 19th in Thompson, Manitoba, approximately 700 kilometers north of Winnipeg. His parents, Jeanette and Tom Shuttle, along with leaders from their community, traveled from their home in Lac Brochet to Winnipeg, hoping the trip will help find their son.
It's not easy being a parent when your loved one is gone. You don't know where they are. We don't know where he is.
Jeanette says her son traveled from Lac Brochet to Thompson for a medical appointment, which is about 400 kilometers northwest of Thompson by plane. He was staying with his aunt who lives there for a few days. His dad says they enjoyed spending time outdoors together until Russell began to push away.
Since he started doing his drugs, I guess he isolated himself. Then he started to push away. He wanted to be by himself.
His father says he wanted to seek treatment. He was last seen walking along Brandon Crescent in Thompson.
We only had a glimpse of a video that we also seen with the RCMP, but it didn't really show where he was going.
Since Hislop's disappearance, family and friends have been searching for him every day with no luck. Joe Ansenin, chief of the Northland's Haudenosaunee First Nation, says Perimeter Aviation sponsored tickets to over 20 band members to help with the search.
I want to thank all the sponsors and also the aviation that had stepped forward and contributed a big part in the search, and also with the RCMP present that's been helping us, supporting us in Thompson.
The family is pleading for answers.
So whoever has the information, please come forward. We're exhausted. We're tired. We're running out of options of where to look anymore in Thompson.
Ashley Branson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
With less than 2 days to go before the opening ceremonies, the Iroquois Nationals lacrosse team is being prevented from flying to Israel to participate in the World Lacrosse Championships. They're currently in Six Nations near Brantford, Ontario, waiting for a bureaucratic issue to be resolved. The Nationals travel on Haudenosaunee passports that are issued to the Six Nations that make up the Iroquois. Not all countries recognize the validity of the passport. In 2010, the team was prevented from attending the World Championships in England due to the use of the passports. Lacrosse was created by the Iroquois, and they are among the best in the world, having won bronze at the last World Championships.
I think that, making that choice is a conflicting choice for us, considering that we do identify as Haudenosaunee people. With that, it's an enactment of, who we are as a person, who we are as people. We do have our own sovereignty and our own beliefs around our sovereignty.
We'd like to hear what you have to say about this or any other story. Here's how to contact us. Send an email to news@aptn.ca. Like our APTN National News Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter @APTN News or go to our website, aptnnews.ca. The Ontario government cancelled a gathering scheduled to take place in Toronto this week and next. The meeting was intended to solidify plans for updating Indigenous content in the province's kindergarten to grade 12 curricula. Justin Brake joins us now from Ottawa to explain more. Justin, thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a bit about the process to reform curricula in Ontario's school system?
Well, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action 62 and 63 specifically compelled governments to work with school boards and with Indigenous educators to reform the education system in the K-12 schools here in Ontario to include Indigenous content that's historically been omitted from the education system. And so under the previous Liberal government here in Ontario, they moved to initiate a process to update the education system with Indigenous content and to include educators like elders and knowledge keepers and teachers in that process. And so it's a three-phase process, and the first phase has been completed, from what I'm told. This is part of phase 2, bringing together people from around Ontario, including knowledge keepers and elders and teachers, to work out ways to assist teachers in delivering the new content, and that's what has been cancelled by the new Ontario government here under Doug Ford.
So what does the government's decision to cancel these meetings mean for students and teachers?
It's unclear what it means, actually. There's just uncertainty. The new changes to the curricula were supposed to be rolled out to this fall. So from what I'm told, it sounds like phase 1 changes, which includes certain courses, social studies, social sciences courses in certain grades, are still slated to be rolled out this fall when students return to school. But it's unclear if the grades and courses and classes that are included in phase 2 and phase 3 will be rolled out. The reaction was pretty swift to the news yesterday. Anishinaabe Aski Nation Deputy Grand Chief Derek Fox said this is a step backwards in the journey toward reconciliation, and that the education of youth in Ontario should not be dictated by a political party, but by professionals who are qualified to determine what children should be learning in school. And Anishinaabe teacher Kalinda Klein, who's the curriculum lead for First Nations, Métis, and Inuit education in Ontario's Upper Grand School District Board. She told us on Monday that this creates a lot of uncertainty for educators, for teachers, and for members of Indigenous communities who are looking forward to these changes as to what the content will be in the courses in the fall.
Now, a spokesperson from the office of Lisa Thompson, Ontario's new Minister of Education, issued a short statement to the media yesterday, but you spoke with Ben Menke yourself. What did he have to say?
Yeah, Ben Menke is a spokesperson for the Ministry of Education. He said he was the one that issued the statement yesterday, and the statement said that the ministry plans to continue moving ahead with the updated TRC curriculum revisions, but that these cancellations of these writing workshops in Toronto that are a part of the process of getting these revisions implemented are in keeping with the commitment that Premier Doug Ford made to run the government more efficiently. So they're effectively cutting costs. Now, the interesting thing about that statement from Menke, the spokesperson yesterday, it said that the Ministry of Education moved ahead with the cancellation unilaterally with no direction from the Minister of Education, and that's the new MPP-elect Minister of Education, Lisa Thompson. So they kind of left it at that, implying that this was not Ms. Thompson's decision to cancel these workshops, but that it was the ministry's decision. So that we found quite interesting because, of course, the minister of any department calls the shots ultimately, and with such an important decision that could impact people in significant ways, they seemed to be taking the blame off the minister and putting it on the ministry. And who is the ministry? I said, well, somebody must be responsible for this decision, and that's what I asked Ben Menke on the phone, and he said, well, the deputy minister has some authority to make these decisions. So I said, well, can we speak with Deputy Minister Bruce Rodriguez then and get his comment on the matter and find out out more about this. And they effectively prohibited him from speaking with the media. Ben Menka said yesterday when I asked him that, he said, this is all we'll be saying at this time. So overall, that was just an interesting thing that I think we should take note of, because a lot of people are wondering what Doug Ford government intentions are, what the new government's intentions are, and how they will interact with Indigenous people and nations in Ontario.
And it's been a couple of interesting moves already so far. Justin, appreciate you taking some time to speak with us about this.
All right, thanks, Dennis.
There's a lot of concern over Greyhound's plan to cut bus service in Western Canada. More on that coming up after the break, but first, here's a look at a story we're working on.
I'm Willow Fiddler. Coming up on APTN National News, we went to Pikangikum First Nation recently, where 97% of the community speaks fluent Anishinaabemowin. That includes the 900 students who go to Inchikay Birch Stick School. We talked to educators in the community to find out how they've kept their language so strong.
Here's a look at Wednesday's weather forecast starting on the East Coast. 20 in Charlottetown and St. John's. Rain and 10 in Nain. Rain and +8 in Inukjuak. 20 in Chibougamau. 23 in Val-d'Or. 27 for Montreal. Sunny across southern Ontario. 29 in Windsor. 27 in Toronto and Peterborough. Sunny and 26 for Sudbury and Timmins. 22 in Wawa. A rainy day across much of northern Manitoba with the exception of Churchill. Another scorcher at 28. That rain continues into Barons River with a high of 26. 30 in Winnipeg. Cloudy day across much of Saskatchewan. 22 in Yorkton and Regina. 28 on Wednesday in Buffalo Narrows and Uranium City. Welcome back. There's extreme concern and disappointment being expressed over Greyhound's announcement to shut down all but one of its routes in Western and Northern Canada. One Grand Chief in Manitoba says, quote, "It's not an overstatement to declare that lives may be at risk as a result of the discontinuation of bus service." Bus service was a critical issue raised in BC's Missing Women inquiry. Joining us now from Vancouver is our Tina House. Tina, thanks for being with us. Can you tell us a bit about what the cancellation of Greyhound bus service and freight means for people in Western Canada?
Absolutely. I think it's just now settling in with a lot of people, and now it's a bit of a shock factor because Greyhound has been essential for so many people to get around from community to community. I think that we're going to see the most vulnerable affected, including elders that need to get to doctor's appointments, young mothers that need to travel for other appointments as well, especially our women, our Indigenous women that are now going to be forced to hitchhike on these highways to get around. So it's going to be a really challenging time, and especially right before winter, I can see it being very, very difficult for many people.
Right. Access to public transportation, an issue for many in remote areas, but it was also a big concern that came up 8 years ago during BC's Missing Women's inquiry.
Indeed. In fact, they did launch the Highway of Tears bus, which was wonderful, and certainly it took a long time for that bus to actually happen. But now that it is in action, the problem with that bus is it runs at a very limited time. It can only accommodate so many people, and it just doesn't accommodate everybody that it needs to. So it's going to be challenging, and I think that there needs to be a lot more done from the federal government stepping in on this problem now.
We're hearing concerns from people that use the bus to government people. What are the developments coming out of Greyhound today?
Well, actually, funny you should mention that. I just got a statement from Greyhound Canada today stating that they are now requesting from the federal government the creation of a community connectivity fund. What that fund will mean is it'll mean funding for the Greyhound buses to continue to service rural communities and to help people get from community to community. So it'll be interesting, but we haven't heard yet anything from the federal government. So that request is still up in the air.
Well, we'll look forward to more in the coming days. Tina, I appreciate you bringing us up to speed here.
Thank you.
Now, a story about that bus that Tina was referencing, one that runs along British Columbia Highway in the northern part of the province. It's a big deal because people have been fighting to have that bus for a decade. In fact, it was a major topic of discussion during hearings at the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. Our reporter Charlotte Moore-Jacobs was in Smithers at that hearing, and she spoke to women who take the bus along the Highway of Tears.
Vivian, Anna, and Tilly are all strangers.
I want to do that too.
But they all rely on this shuttle bus in northern BC to get to and from their remote communities. On Saturday, it's hard to find an empty seat, but it's better than being a statistic.
My auntie went missing on the highway here. Ramona Wilson, I knew her.
After a decade of pleading for reliable public transportation, First Nations along northern BC's Highway 16 can now take a public shuttle bus.
Do you ride this bus often?
Much as I can. It keeps me off the highway from hitchhiking.
I'm happy they have this bus because a lot of young women come there, like they hitchhike a lot.
People pay $5 a ride. The patchwork system launched in June travels between Burns Lake and Smithers, a 3-hour bus ride spanning 150 kilometers. There's also a second bus that travels over 200 kilometers, another 4 hours between Burns Lake and Prince George. This bus is a big deal for the people that ride it because the route is along the Highway of Tears, where there are officially 18 cases of women who have been killed or have gone missing. 17 out of those 18 were Indigenous. Since 2006, advocates have been pushing for a shuttle bus to connect every community along the 700-kilometer stretch of road.
What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now!
Gladys Raddick, one of the people that has been fighting for this bus, was in Smithers, BC for the MMIWG hearings, which took place last month.
We asked for a shuttle bus service because we have so many First Nations communities all along the highways throughout BC. And when we talked about the shuttle bus service, this is what we need because a lot of our people need transportation, whether it be to go 30 kilometers or 300 kilometers.
Another thing these riders have in common, they've all hitchhiked along the infamous Highway of Tears.
Ever had to? Yes, it was like all the way from Kelowna, BC.
I hitchhike all my life. Oh, I just pray and you do what you gotta do to get to A to B. I was very young when I first started hitchhiking, and it is very scary because sometimes we don't even know who we're jumping in with.
While the shuttle bus is a good start, it only runs a few days a week, and people that ride it say that's a problem.
Do you have to ride this bus often?
When I can. It's only 3 times out of the week, so it makes it hard.
Many of the commuters must use public transportation to get to work and access services.
Appointments, I've seen pregnant mothers hitchhiking because they need to see the doctor, and you know, just things that everyday needs that the majority of Canadian society has access to.
They either pay for a ride, like, you know, black market ride, or hitchhike. Yeah, sometimes it's because they have to, you know, go get assistance, or, you know, like they have to physically go get the check. Yeah, he's probably taller than me.
Thanks to the bus, Vivian, Anna, and Tilly will reach their destination safely. Peace of mind along Canada's Highway of Tears. Charlotte Moore-Jacobs, APTN National News, Burns Lake.
Time for another quick break, but stick around. We're off to the Calgary Stampede next. Here's a look at the rest of Wednesday's weather forecast. Picking back up in northern Alberta, 29 under sunny skies for Fort Chipewyan and Fort McMurray, 26 in Edmonton and Medicine Hat, 24 for Lethbridge. A hot sunny day for the BC interior, 28 in Penticton, 29 in Kamloops. 24 under sunny skies for Fort St. John and Fort Nelson. In the Yukon, rain and 15 in Rock River, 16 in Whitehorse. Over to NWT, 23 in Fort Liard, Fort Resolution, and Ray Lakes. Plus 4 in Saxe Harbor, 6 in Paulatuck, 11 in Inuvik. Another hot day in parts of Nunavut, 29 in Chesterfield, 28 in Baker Lake, 8 above in Joe Haven, Talioke, and Igloolik, where rain is expected. Welcome back. It's that time of year in Calgary where thousands fill the stands to watch the rodeo at the world-famous Stampede. And for a second year in a row, the audience is taking in the Indian relay races. It made its debut last year, and as Tamara Pimentel tells us, it was so popular it's back for another run.
This here is Nacho, one of the newest members to the team, and this is his first year running relay. So far he's done good, you know.
Cody Big Tobacco, a jockey from Siksika Nation, preps his horse Nacho for his third appearance at the Calgary Stampede, competing in the Indian horse relay.
I'm excited. I've been waiting for this year, this time of year to come. We've been to a few races and just gonna treat it like any other race. You know, I know it's the big show and it's the Calgary Stampede, but we can't get too excited. We got to stay calm, cool, and just be ready to run.
Last year was the first time the Calgary Stampede hosted the relay. 4 teams from Treaty 7 and Montana competed. The race was so popular, it's back for a second year.
I believe Indian relay is the ultimate sport because you have one jockey that has to ride 3 race horses bareback without a saddle and make the switches, and I think that's absolutely amazing. You have to be a good athlete to be able to do that.
Tyrone Potts brought the relay to the Stampede last year. He judged races in the past, got to know some of the best teams, and met up with the Stampede committee to showcase these athletes.
I'm so honored to be First Nations, and it's about these teams to give them exposure. And Indian relay was not that big in Canada last year, but it got exposed at the greatest outdoor show on earth.
The relay works like this. The jockey jumps on the first horse and rides a lap bareback. The rider then jumps on the next horse and runs another lap, riding a total of 3 horses.
Well, the crowd, they always love it. Every time you could just tell, you could feel it right when you walk in, especially at this place being 30,000 people.
Chaz Racine traveled from Browning, Montana to compete.
Being Native American and showing up here, it's awesome. Feels good to wear our colors and be proud of who we are.
Indian relays are tradition, because especially like we're on Blackfoot territory, and everybody rode bareback. This is how they went to war. This is how they killed the buffalo.
Big Tobacco says he wants that tradition to become more popular outside Indigenous communities.
We're representing for not just our people, but for all the people, all the Native people throughout North America. Hopefully next year this becomes bigger and we have more teams. But it's awesome, you know, we're doing this for us.
Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Calgary.
What a show. That is your APTN National News for this Tuesday. For more, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. We're going to leave you with some more from the Calgary Stampede. I'm Dennis Ward. Have a great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.